you know what? Whether I succeed, whether I fail, that's not a reflection of my worth as a person. That's just information. And when I can start to use that data and use that information to drive those decisions, it makes business easier. Because now I'm focusing my time and energy on what's working. I can double down on things that are working. And if something's not working, okay, let's get curious.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Behind the Scenes. Today, I have my lovely guest, Amy Traugh. She is a business coach and the host of the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast and founder and CEO of the Moms on a Mission, a community of moms working together to change the narrative that you have to choose between running a thriving business and being a fully present mom. So if you are new to the show or you watched plenty of our episodes, you know that this is also a narrative that we fully support here at Elf Operations and on Behind the Scenes, because we definitely believe that you can have both. You don't have to choose. So Amy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my goodness, Emma, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited to pour into your listeners, and hopefully some of my journey will help make somebody else's journey a little bit easier.
Right. That is the goal here. We just want to share what we've learned and hopefully can prevent you from making not the same mistakes that we've made along the journey. Because you've gotten to build two businesses while raising your girls. So Amy has two girls, and two businesses. So do you want to tell us how you kind of got started in entrepreneurship life and what led to that?
Yeah, so it's been a wild ride, and one that I would have never dreamt had played out the way that it did. So I actually come from a career in healthcare. I worked for 16 years in outpatient physical therapy. I was a physical therapist assistant, and I didn't necessarily hate it, but I was running on autopilot. I was just working 40 hours a week, coming home. There would be days I never saw my kids, but you know what? I had a degree. I was working in my dream job, and I was just existing, going through the motions. Okay, this is what society says you need to be successful. I had the house, I had an awesome husband, I had healthy kids. On paper, I had all the boxes checked. And then the year 2020 happened, and some kind of things changed, shut down a little bit. And suddenly I was a homeschooling mom to a kindergartner and a preschooler. And it was oh boy, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this work? My husband worked in healthcare. He was an essential worker. I worked in healthcare. I was essential. So what are we going to do? So luckily, I was offered the opportunity to take a furlough. We had to cut staff by 50% since I was outpatient. I'm like, you know what? Sign me up. This is what I have to do right now, because my family's always going to come first. We can always find another job. We can always find ways to make money. But right now, my priority is my kids, because what else are we going to do? Right. But honestly, looking back, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because what it allowed me was the space to finally pause amongst the hustle and the chaos and the autopilot mode. And I still remember sitting, it was so gorgeous outside that spring here in Ohio. I live in one of the grayest places in the world. Northeast Ohio is perpetually gray. I still remember that spring was beautiful. And I'm sitting out there, I'm watching the kids play, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, I'm missing this. I am totally missing my kids grow up. And I felt so much guilt, and I was just oh my gosh, hit to the, chopped me right in half to pieces. So I realized at that point, something had to change. Well, I had always had it on my heart to start my own residential home organizing company, of all things. When I first had my kids, I got so much just peace and control back from just getting rid of some of the clutter. And I'm known by no means a minimalist. I am not saying get rid of all your kids' toys. No. I got rid of all the extra stuff that was always around, causing me to search, causing me to move things. And it really gave me so much inner peace. And I'm I want this for other women. So I started this business. without a business degree, without any qualifications. I'm like, okay, let's just do it. I mean, why not? It was during the pandemic. It was a great time to start a business because there were so many resources available. Like, it was so cool. Like, I took
Yeah.
Harvard Business School courses because they were free online at the time. Like, I learned so much, but then I implemented what I learned. And in growing a local service based business, part of growing that is networking. So I would go
Yep.
to all these virtual networking events, which was great. But I was told, like, okay, this is cool. Like, you have this business. And in order to really thrive, though, you have to like compartmentalize like your family and then work. Like, it's separate. And I'm sitting there like going, but like,
Mm-mm.
I feel like a lot of my strengths from being a mom make me an awesome business owner. And because I'm a business owner, like, I feel like that's made me an even better mom. So what do you
Yep.
mean I have to choose? So I just kept getting that feeling over and over and over. So I'm like, well, you know what? Like, I'm doing okay. This business is growing. So obviously something's working. Why don't I just see if there's anybody else around here that's interested in the same thing? So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's start a Facebook group. Why not? So I started the Facebook group on a whim and it grew. I found and connected with other women in my area and it continued to grow. And as that grew, my business continued to grow. And I was getting a lot of
Mhm.
success in my business. And people were coming to me going, hey, can you teach me? Like, what are you doing? How are you growing this? How are you like really becoming successful? And I'm like, okay, let's, narrow down. And, they were having successes. And what I realized in growing that first business was, oh my gosh, like, I love this. I love helping other women achieve the success that they desire. And at the end of the
Yep.
day, I'm doing what I spent my entire career in physical therapy doing, which is empowering and educating my patients. We would come
Right.
in, we'd do the evaluation, we would establish a goal. Okay, once you have the goal in mind, we have to know where you're at. Let's establish a baseline with where you're at.
Right.
Okay, we know where you're at. We know where you want to be. Now let's reverse engineer it. Let's break it down so that we can get you the results you desire. That's all building a business is. And like recovering from a surgery, it's not a linear process. There's going to be 20,000 different ways you can achieve the same outcome, but it's finding the way that works for you. It's breaking those big, scary goals down into little bite sized steps. So, since then, I've branched off into this wonderful membership community where I link arms with women, help them build their businesses from the ground up with masterclasses, resources, trainings, all of the things. And then I love working with women too, one on one, that are more established in their business to really nail down the strategy, as is like your zone of genius on like, how can we maximize using some strategy so we can get unstuck, so we can stop the hustle and really build that business around your life. So, yeah, in a nutshell, it's been a wild ride.
It was definitely, I feel like 2020 was definitely the year of like the boom of businesses. And now we're kind
Yeah.
of seeing the taper. That's been like a conversation that I've had with a lot of other entrepreneurs. Like, this is the first normal year. Things have started to stabilize. So, like, I've seen people either like stick with it this year or have gone back to working full time or something different. Because now we're kind of getting back to like a normal market, so to speak. But I love that you kind of just jumped in and did it because I started my business around the same time. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I hate being at work and being away from my kids. And like this time around with my youngest, because I had them so far apart, I'm like, I get so sad. I'm like, I never got this opportunity with my oldest. So your moment of, oh, it just hits you. You just feel like, what other choice do I have than, you know, being here with them and creating that flexibility. So I think that's what really comes down to is women want a business that's flexible. So can you talk a little bit about the lessons learned that you had when you started of creating that flexibility? And I'm guessing one of the big things will be boundaries. I know a lot of service providers struggle with boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Boundaries are so key. And I think it goes even further than boundaries because something I
Yep.
struggled with when I first went to working a 9 to 5 into going full time into my business was now I had this big chunk of time. So yeah, I had the boundaries. Yeah, I could, put those bookends for my day on, but how was I actually spending that time? It really involved being so intentional about
Right.
how I was spending my time. And I think this is the not so glamorous part of business where a lot of business owners skip over it. It's what are those three daily non-negotiables going to be? Because I'll tell
Right.
you what, you're building a business. If you want this to be a side hustle, like that's cool. But if you want this to be your full-time way of, creating income, that's that's awesome too. But you have to do what's best for you. And that means treating it like a business. So getting super clear on what are those three non-negotiables that I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to do it every single day in order to move the needle forward in my business. So for me, one of those is networking. I am every single day seeking to build my network, getting into new rooms, actively seeking collaboration with fellow entrepreneurs. I think we get into such a scarcity mindset that, oh my gosh, she's doing exactly the same thing as I'm doing. I could never ever have a conversation because she's competition. Once you
Right.
realize, like, she gets it, she gets exactly what you're going through. And there's no way that you can serve every single person out there. You're not going to be a good fit for everyone, just like everyone's not going to be a good fit for you. So, really
Right.
being like super clear on, okay, who do you want to serve? That's huge. But networking and collaboration, that's one of my daily non-negotiables. My second one is just showing up and seeking to serve because I
Yeah.
have value to bring to the table and I want to share it. So whether that be through my podcast, showing up on an Instagram story, sending out an email, that's going to look different for every business owner, but
Right.
showing up and getting yourself out there because let's face it, it's noisy. It is such a noisy world. So we have to repeat ourselves. We have to say the same things over and over and over because people really aren't paying that much attention. We tend to let our
That's
egos get in the way, right? We think that, like, oh, everybody's paying so much attention. I just said this last week. They're going to remember. Nobody's paying attention. I'm sorry. I know that's a hard truth. I'm bursting some bubbles right now, but it's a truth
Mhm.
I had to overcome. I had to get comfortable with, like, no, I'm just going to keep doing the thing over and over and over. And the last one is just building relationships, engaging with those that are already in my world because we get so sucked into chasing shiny objects. I need more
Mhm.
followers. I need more email list subscribers. I need. Okay, well, how are you actually showing up for the people that are already there? One of my mentors just gave a great analogy yesterday when we were talking. She's like, yeah, it's like when you're inviting people to come to your party, but then when they actually show up to your party, you're just ignoring them. You're just forgetting that they're there. I'm like, yes, I love
That's a
that.
good
I love
analogy.
that analogy, right? Because it's
Yep.
true. And that's the low hanging fruit. They've already opted into us, they're already a warm lead. So why are we not maximizing our time by focusing on things like this that will actually then lead into more of a relationship, nurturing that, which leads into sales versus things like, I need to know more. I need to learn more. I just need to scroll for inspiration. I'm not feeling inspired. No,
Yeah.
like really get so clear on what it is that will move the needle forward. I think that's step one.
And I think people get super overwhelmed by that when they hear like what's going to move the needle forward and they think there's this like
Yeah.
magic recipe that it's going to do. Like it's not the same for every business. Like I remember when I first started, I was like, what's this magic formula? What are like, who's going to lay it out for me? And then I was like, no, I have to decide. I have to choose what is the non-negotiables, that needle mover. And some people just don't want to hear that. And I think you
Right.
touched on some key truths that um we all fall for of, you know, networking. I think people just don't know how to convert and stay on top of those key, like networking relationships. And you, like you said, the people already in our network, we're always hearing like source new leads, get more leads. I always hear people say like, I need more leads. I'm like, well, are you servicing your clients? Like I just had an interview last week with, and this was just purely from a financial perspective of it costs less to retain your clients that you have now. Like pour into them, like the people that are already paying you, the people who have already opted in, like you said, give them your best. Stop trying to like make new friends all the time. I mean, not like that sounds bad. Like, definitely make new friends, but you can't forget, like you said, stop. I love the party analogy. That's a really
I know,
good.
I did too. That's why I'm like, I had to share this. But yeah, it's significantly less effort because let's be real, like our two most valuable assets are our time and energy. And if we're
Mhm.
constantly seeking more and new and shiny and not focusing on like that low hanging fruit, those people that have already said, hey, yes, I want to be in there. That's where the ascension model comes in. That's where it's awesome to
Yeah.
have like, okay, have three different offers so that hey, someone's not going to be on one-on-one coaching with you forever, and that's okay. They shouldn't be. But then where can they go after that? Can they go into a membership community? Do you have another offer? Are there other things that can provide them value? So just really being strategic about what offers you already have in place can totally be a game changer. And it just saves so much energy for us as
Right.
business owners. Like we don't need to constantly be reinventing and chasing everyone. Like we're not going to be for everyone. And that's like, okay. You need to get okay with that.
I that's another one that I don't think is I it's not said enough because everyone's like, oh, the competition. I'm like, no, I've had so many other ops people on on the show. I have like ops friends, I have ClickUp friends, like because when you run into a wall or you got stuck on something, you want to have people who are also resources because like you said, not everyone's going to be a fit for me. I might not want to work with that person, but it'll still do me good to have a referral or to put them in contact. Like you don't have to be the one servicing them all.
Right, right. And those people get it because they will help you through those challenging times. And
Mhm.
again, like you need to surround yourself with people in your industry because you will be questioned by people in your immediate bubble, especially when you're first starting out in entrepreneurship. You're going
Yep.
to be questioned a lot, especially if you are pivoting from a career. I still get questioned. Even someone like my mom will be like, are you sure you're doing okay? I'm really not sure how you're making this work. And I'm like, it's not my job to explain this to you. Like, yes, I went to school. Yes, I had a degree. Like, okay, but that was no longer serving me. That was no longer like in alignment anymore with me. But here's the beautiful change. If you're not happy, you can make the choice to make a change. And that's the coolest part of entrepreneurship. You get to run your business however you want. And if something's not working for you, you can change it. You can come up with a different strategy because it doesn't matter what strategy you're using. I need to find the strategy that works best for me. And that right there, that's where you gain your power back because now you're designing a business on your terms. You're running your business your way. You have no reason to constantly compare yourself with everyone else out there that's doing similar things because you're doing it your way that works for you. That's what makes it sustainable and fun.
I I agree. I feel like that's a hard lesson learned for a lot of new entrepreneurs because they they don't know how to get clarity around what it is they actually want. I think that's a really hard transition to go from like 9 to 5, where you're told like this is your structure, this is what you do, to I see a lot of entrepreneurs, especially beginner, like smaller size entrepreneurs to like just starting out who are just like, I don't even know how to plan my day, or they get stuck on the fact that they're like, I think it takes so much time to do all the things. I don't know how I'm going to do it with my kids. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did you overcome that hurdle? I know I stumbled with that a lot in the past year with having my second is I would find myself telling myself, I can't do this. I can't do this with kids. And I know that there's other women who say that to themselves.
Yeah. And using those women as belief, like borrowing the belief that it is possible. And it takes a lot of trial and error. And I think, especially if you are a mom, it involves being super clear and respecting the season of life that you're in, because there's going to be seasons where you can devote a whole lot more time and effort and energy into your business, and that's awesome. There's going to be times where your family needs to come first, and that is fine. It's trial and error. It's messy. It's figuring it out, but it's asking for help. It's stopping the mom martyrdom syndrome that, you know what, I'm the mom, I have to do it all. No, I am giving you permission that no, asking for help, those are the three hardest words for me to say. Like, still hard for me to say, but asking for help is such a strength that is going to be a game changer for you. And I'm not talking about, like, you don't need to outsource every single thing in your business. Yes, outsourcing is awesome. There's things that you should be outsourcing, but when you ask for help, even at home, our kids are capable. They're so much more capable than we give them credit for. I still remember the day where I was making my kids lunches. It was like a Sunday night. And I'm like, I hate Sundays. Why do I hate Sundays? Because I'm having to make these darn lunches. And I'm like, okay, I have a kindergartner and a second grader. And this was at the time. And I'm like, why can't they pack their lunches? Like, they have hands, they get themselves snacks, they can pack their lunch. So guess what? I asked them to pack their lunch. I taught them how to pack their lunch. And now they've been packing their lunches. Like, my youngest, since she was a kindergartner, like, because I took the time to teach her. But I run my family a lot like I run my business. We actually have a family plan in place. We have our mission, we have our values, we have our vision. We've got roles and responsibilities because we are a team. I can't do it all myself. And just because I can doesn't mean that I should, because I am building a business here as well. So I think it's important that we get really super honest with each other. Take advantage of technology. Grocery delivery is a game changer. And for everyone that, I always hear the objection that, but it costs money. Okay, but what's your time worth? If you're saying that you don't have enough time to grow your business, okay, you can literally, like, get an hour and a half of time back. If you can use that hour and a half to generate revenue, to be working with a client, to work on those income producing activities, like, right there, you've literally gained an hour and a half. And that's 15 minutes to the store, hour in the store, 15 minutes home. An hour and a half of time. You've got to start using technology to your advantage, using those systems, using those automations, and asking for help. And I think that's something that a lot of business owners forget too, is something like standard operating procedures. Have them in your business. Again, this is not the glamorous, sexy part about running a business. That right there, that shows you what you can automate, what you can offload, what you can delegate, because chances are, if you're doing a task over and over and over, there's an automation for that. And this is like your zone of genius. So yes, like, I am all about, like, let's work smarter, not harder, to preserve that time and energy.
Especially, like, I think that you bring up a good point too with the groceries. We don't do that as much. We will when the baby comes again, but we just, like, have a set of time where we have, like, nothing else to do with when my daughter is at her visits. So that's when we do it. But it does help when you, like, it'll show you what you've ordered before, and it actually costs you less because you're spending less on impulsive buys because you're not, like, searching the aisles. So whenever I hear that, I'm like, it technically saves you money because you're not impulsively buying, and it also will cut down on the grocery list part because it saves what you've ordered. And, like, for us, we're pretty consistent on a few staples, and then we'll swap out things, like, for different meals. But it also comes back to planning. Like you said, you have to all be on the same page. You all have to be working together towards those key objectives. So I think that those are some really important points that the audience should take away, because you don't have to sacrifice. I think there's a lot of women who think, like, I need to put my dreams on hold, or I need to put what I want on hold. And so, like, support my husband's business, and, like, that's our role, is, like, I want to be here for my kids, but I don't want to give up everything for my career / business, because eventually they will be in school. Eventually they will not need me as much, because I'm in that season that you're talking about. Well, they need more attention. And I use the analogy a lot. Like, you can have sometimes your businesses are like your kids. Like there's going to be seasons in your business where you need your business needs you more. And if you don't have those SOPs, that's when your business is always going to be dependent on you. So I think those are great, like hand in hand analogies, like teaching your daughter how to make her lunch, and you got to teach employees. It's all about how you lead. And you really have to decide if that's what you want out of your business, or like you said, is it just a side hustle? And I think that's
Right.
people are shamed into feeling like they can't just have this side hustle, that they have to make 10 figures or 10K months or X amount. So like, I'd love to hear your perspective on, just balancing the side hustle if that's all you want, or, that I don't think that should be a trend that's promoted. I just see people fall in
Yeah.
that trap. They're like, I'm just gonna start a side hustle, and then they get online and they're like, 10K months. I'm like, doesn't have to be
Right.
10K months.
Exactly. And it just all goes back to clarity because you are completely right. You're scrolling and you're seeing, like, oh, if I'm not hitting 10K months, like, that's a bad thing. What do you want? And I think it comes down to asking yourself, what does success look like to you? What do you want this business to look like? And if that's having enough money to pay for your daughter's dance lessons, cool. This is your life. You get to design it how you want it. If it means having enough to pay to go on a family vacation each summer, that's amazing. But we get so caught up in the
Mhm.
hustle and bustle of what everybody else is defining success as that we lose sight
Mhm.
of our own version of success. And at the end of the day, it does not matter. Like if you want a 10K month, like that's cool. Like go for it. You can make that happen. But if you don't want that, that's okay. You get to choose. You have the power to choose. And that's really step one is getting so clear on what you want this business to look like.
Right. I think, and that's being honest with yourself of what you want and not letting that peer pressure or
Right.
the people pleasing come into play with um defining your goals, defining your vision. I talk a lot about that in some of my content, as well as you need to have some point of direction, or you're never going to identify those needle movers. You're just going to constantly be picking shiny object syndrome, like
Right.
what's the next thing. So I know you kind of mentioned those three key needle movers, but what else helped you design your business? Like what helped you get clear on, I think that we hear that a lot, like just define success. Like what helped you get clear? Like different like trial and error, different exercises, things like that.
Yeah. So for me, I had to stop. I had to stop and ask myself and work through and do the inner work. And part of that is, recognizing like I came from a childhood where I was taught not to fail. I mean, look at our school system. We are taught not to fail. We are
Right.
afraid
Yep.
of failure. So it really involved doing the inner work, really diving deep into what are the stories that I'm telling myself, really becoming super self aware. And again, that's hard to work through. Like we like to numb ourselves to that. We don't like to do that because it's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. So a lot of times our brain will just keep us safe because it likes comfort. So anything outside of our comfort zone, it's going to go, oh no, we don't do that because
Yep.
there's no guarantees. We have been conditioned not to fail. And then my career in healthcare, I couldn't fail because I could seriously hurt someone if I failed. So I was
Right.
so conditioned to fear failure. But when I really embraced it and I detached, and it was like, okay, if I can view my business like an experiment and really look at the data to drive my decisions, that makes it easier because I'm seeing, okay, when I do this and this, ooh, a really fun volcano happens. Like cool stuff's happening here. But if I do this and this, like, oh, wait, nothing happened. I had a silent lunch. Okay, no problem. But what did that tell me? What data can I get from that to make my next launch even better? How can I
Right.
fill the gaps? Where did my systems fail me? Was there a tech issue? Really being able to stop and acknowledge, like, okay, where I'm
Yep.
at and then zoom out so that I can really learn that, you know what, whether I succeed, whether I fail, that's not a reflection of my worth as a person. That's just information. And when I can start to use that data and use that information to drive those decisions, it makes business easier. Because now I'm focusing my time and energy on what's working. I can double down on things that are working. And if something's not working, okay, let's get curious. Let's get curious
Right.
as to what can we do a little different? What can we change up? How can we make this work? So that right there has been a total game changer. And I know like everybody's always listening, they want this secret formula, but you have to take action. Building a business, it's a long game. It's a
Mhm.
long game of experimentation and just consistency, being disciplined to show up, to do the work of those IPAs over and over and over, whether you feel like it or not, because that motivation is going to fade. That's where the discipline, that clarity as to why. Why are you building this business? What is your driving force? That's what keeps you going.
Yep. I There's some things that you got like there's got you have to identify the bare minimums of like to keep the business running, even when you're not motivated. And there are things that I talked about this with another guest about doing what feels good. And there's a lot of things that you can do that feel good, but there are at least minimums that you have to do, like we were like taxes, things like that. There are bare minimum that you have to do for your business. And even though you may not like them, like we need to do some of those things or figure out a way to make them more enjoyable for ourselves. But consistency, like you said, is so key um, to making that business run until
Right,
you can make it
right.
outsourcing.
Right, exactly, because we're living in such a society of instant gratification. I mean, look at Amazon Prime. You can literally have something at your door the next day. We want results now. But the reality
Yeah.
is, for most business owners, it's just doing the basics over and over and over, not overcomplicating it. Honestly, simple is sustainable. Simple will keep you going. So, really get clear on just three things. What is that bare minimum of three things every single day? And that's going to lead you to results.
Yeah, that is so true. And it's so like, I don't even know if there is another thing that we could leave the audience with. If there is, and like, what would be the one key takeaway? Because I feel like that is the message of the episode and everything we talked about. But is there one thing that you'd like our audience to walk away with? Because I know um we could talk about this kind of stuff all day.
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing for me was surrounding myself with community, just being around other entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Community has been such a game changer for me. And I am such a believer, and I believe it was Lindsay Schwartz that said this, like, you need three people in your life as an entrepreneur. Those that are ahead of you, they are proof of what you want. Learn from them, borrow the belief. They are there to guide you and show you the way. You need to
Mhm.
link arms with those that are beside you because they get it. They will get you through those hard times. They understand exactly what you're dealing with when those around you don't. And then be
Yeah.
the light for those behind you, those that are going through what you went through when you were first starting out as a business owner. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And if I can lighten the load for someone else, if I can be that support to help get them through to the next level, like that just fills me with so much joy. So I would say that would be my final takeaway. Surround yourself with community. Your people are out there. And if you can't find them, start your own. My community started out on a whim as a Facebook group. Sometimes you have to be the one to be the trailblazer, to get a little uncomfortable and go, you know what? Like, no, I disagree. I'm going to start this thing over here. And if you're interested, like, come along. There's a seat for
Yeah.
you at my table.
So good because be the trailblazer. If you can't find it, make it. That's obviously a need if you want it. So that's a great piece of advice for any entrepreneur. And I love the community aspect, which is a great transition of you want to connect with Amy. All of her links will be in the show notes down below. Join her community, hang out with her. She is great. She has her podcast that you can listen to and check out. So thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Emma, for this opportunity. I just love talking with fellow entrepreneurs. It is my favorite thing ever. Thank you.
This is like my favorite part of my business, is getting to connect with other entrepreneurs and have these conversations and share our stories, to be that light.
Yes, absolutely. Be the light.
Thank you.